Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen, 5 o'clock Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. Item 1 on the agenda is the first Selectman's remarks, so I will begin. This is our first Board of Selectmen meeting of 2023. Happy and healthy New Year. Wishes to everyone. Thank you for continuing to keep each other safe with the ongoing COVID-19 flu RSV challenges, for understanding why we moved this meeting to a remote format. New Haven County is now color-coded in the red for high community spread. The CDC recommends, and I concur, staying up to date on vaccines and wearing masks indoors in public spaces, which can help prevent or reduce severe illness and lower the potential for strain on the healthcare system. Woodbridge Human Services, in partnership with Griffin Hospital and the DPH mobile van, will hold an all-ages COVID vaccine clinic for children 6 months to seniors on January 31st from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the Center Gymnasium. No appointments are necessary. Masks are available for town residents through Human Services Department, as are a limited supply of COVID-19 home test kits. You may call that department to arrange pickup. The holiday season is now behind us, and we have moved fully into budget season. Please remember that all residents have a voice in the budget process. We have just received the 6-year capital budget improvement presentations from all departments, and will be moving ahead with operating budget presentations later this month. The annual budget reflects our shared values and is a balancing act of our commitment to provide excellent education for our youngest residents and yet show respect to taxpayers by carefully budgeting for responsible spending on services. All residents are strongly encouraged to attend these upcoming meetings at the end of January. It will help you understand the process. Meetings can be watched live on YouTube and on our local channel 79. Links to watch recorded meetings can be found in meeting minutes. One way in which we are working toward our stronger financial future is by getting our municipal waste costs under control. Our current contract runs through 2024, and it is estimated that when our contract is due to be renewed, prices may rise. We're working to divert waste in preparation for these increases. The town is encouraging residents to think twice before they throw. That's because the town of Woodbridge, like many towns across Connecticut, faces steadily rising disposal costs. The heavier our trash, the more we pay. The town installed a scale at the transfer station to accurately assess the weight of the trash collected by commercial haulers and resulting fees to be collected. The scale is also used to determine standard per pound rate for residents disposing of bulky trash item, such as furniture or demolition materials. Single stream recycling has been problematic, as placing all materials into a single bin can increase the likelihood of contamination due to broken glass and the propensity to toss non-approved material into the recycling bin. The town is involved in a pilot program to take glass out of the waste stream and has a separate glass recycling container so that residents and haulers may dispose of glass for recycling separately. Glass to be recycled, non-redeemable bottles only, must be clean with lids removed. Any glass or other containers that are contaminated with food cannot be recycled. These items should be included with regular trash. Unacceptable items will contaminate the entire load and will either be rejected or cost the town in contamination fees. You can find a full list of acceptable and unacceptable recycling at the town's website. With the operating budget presentations just ahead of it, I'm pleased to say that budget season no longer coincides with the election season. Legislation was enacted by the state last year, moving these few towns with May elections to November to coincide with the rest of the state. Woodbridge's municipal election will take place on November 7th, 2023. I've been focusing on funding quality of life improvements without increasing the taxpayer burden. With more than $3 million in grant funding secured in the past year, we look to take projects from the proposed state to completion. These projects include renovation of the old firehouse into the Community and Cultural Center, construction to renovate the Woodbridge Center, and sidewalks to link Amity High School to the library and other town buildings. Please try to attend the presentation of the proposed Community and Cultural Center at the library at 7 p.m. on January 25th. Residents are encouraged to attend to learn more about the proposed plan, ask questions, and provide feedback. Woodbridge Center's renovation project is well on its way to completion. When finished, it will be a modern, fresh, welcoming, air-conditioned space with excellent ventilation. This project is a result of years of planning and will help our seniors remain healthy and active, which of course is a critical goal for our aging population. When finished, we'll have a space worthy of the wonderful programming that happens inside. Another part of the upgrade to the center of town will be the addition of a sidewalk connecting Amity High School with the library to make access safer. This will be entirely funded through a Department of Transportation grant. These three projects move the needle on our town center campus beautification plan, which includes a more beautiful, inviting, welcoming, safe, pedestrian and friendly space. Remaining projects in the beautification plan include additional outdoor seating, upgraded signage, and improvements to the center gymnasium, and renovation of the center building. We will continue to seek both federal and state funding to accomplish these projects. 2023 promises to be another busy, productive, and prosperous year in Woodbridge. I look forward to it, and I look forward to working with all of you to make it so. One final reminder, our February Board of Selectmen meeting is on the 8th, which is the second Wednesday of the month. With some confusion, people thought it might be the 15th, but it's absolutely, because the first is on a Wednesday. So the second Wednesday of the month is the 8th. And with that, we will move to item 2, Woodbridge Board of Education. I will introduce Superintendent Von Tatenska if she's here. I don't see her. There goes my light.
Yes, she's under the attendees.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, there she is. She just got moved.
Wonderful. I am unable to get my video to display. I sincerely apologize. I'll work with my tech team tomorrow.
It happens.
I even tried on my phone to no avail. So thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your informative update. I appreciated the information you just shared. So I do have a few things to share with you all. So first, as a follow-up to the town's building committee interior walkthrough of Beecher Road School that we did in November, please be on the lookout for an invitation from us to have the joint boards of finance and selectmen join the town building committee on a tour of Beecher Road School exterior and grounds. We'll be scheduling this for late January, early February, either right after school commences around 8:30 in the morning or right after dismissal at 3:45, weather dependent. So we'll be working with you to schedule that. And, hopefully that information will help continue to shape the decisions of that committee. On Friday, January 6th, we submitted our Board of Education proposed budget to the town as requested, and we are in the process of preparing to present at the joint Board of Finance and Select meetings at the end of the month, and we look forward to sharing our best thinking about what will help move our district forward in learning and achievement. At the December meeting, the board of Education also adopted our school calendar for the 23-24 school year. So that's available for your reference and any planning for vacations and events next year. As your new superintendent, I continue to meet many stakeholders within the Beecher School community, both staff members and outside community members. It's been very valuable in helping me develop positive working relationships with individuals, as well as to gain important information about our students, staff, and community and what we value. If you're interested in meeting with me, you may certainly reach out to Marcia DeGennaro, my administrative assistant, and schedule a time. I'd love to meet with you. Beecher Road School's enrollment is up 7 students from December, so we are now at 863 learners as of January, I think 2nd, 2023. And on Monday of this week, I wanted to share, I think you'd find this interesting. I joined our BOA superintendents for breakfast at Amity, where we met with our Connecticut state representatives who were available to meet. We invited them all. 3 representatives were able to share their time with us, and we went with an agenda and shared several ideas and concerns about some of the unfunded mandates that are facing education right now and their impact on our budgets and learning. We appreciated the time to share our concerns and ideas around these issues, and it was very helpful to continue to establish those relationships with the representatives, and they were very appreciative to hear our ideas and thoughts. And that is what I have for you.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any comments or questions? Stay healthy out there, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3 on the agenda is the Center Building Renovation Committee. And I'm assuming Dwight's ready here somewhere, Jerry. There he is. There's Dwight.
Good afternoon.
Dwight, I'm going to introduce you because I have to have a comment. I always have to have a comment. But
Hey, I got rid of this, Beth, by the way.
I just noticed that, Santa. You got to grow it again. 11 months you got. I'm going to grow one too, maybe for next year. I'll surprise you. Anyway, I just really want to introduce Dwight Rowland, who is the chair of this Center Building Renovation Committee. And we are in the presence of a living treasure, number one. He's still with us. He's living treasure. All you've done for this town many years. And I just want to thank you personally for that report that was in our package. I found it very comprehensive, and I'm looking forward to to you going over it with us. But I thought it was just really a great report, and I want to thank you in advance for all your hard work on this committee so far.
Oh, you're welcome.
So with that, you've got the mic.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
If you recall, back in May, the Board of Selectmen established the Center Building Renovation Committee with six members. We had an initial charge that was essentially then upgraded updated in late May to include additional items that we felt it was important. We held our first committee meeting back on June 1st, and we continue to meet on a monthly basis, if not as required basis. And part of the charge was the selection recommendation of a qualified architectural engineering firm to help us guide us through this process. So as part of the process, our committee assembled a request for qualifications, RFQ, seeking the assistance of a qualified AE firm that established specific requirements, parameters, identifying the 5 phases along with timelines for our project. The initial RFQ was issued mid-August. We got responses back mid-September, but predicated on the lack of response to the initial RFQ, we reissued the RFQ on September 22nd. We got proposals back on October 27th. We received total of 5 responses from firms. O'Riordan McGinney from Seymour, JMT Seco from Orange, Land Associates from Goshen, Silver Petroselli from Hamden, SP plus A is what I'm going to call them, and Jakunski Humes from Berlin. Following our review of these, all of these, our committee found that the proposal from JMT Synco was non-responsive to our RFQ and was eliminated. They really didn't focus in on the parameters of the RFQ that we issued. So what we did was we therefore opted, and we brought the 4 remaining firms in for an interview process to learn more about their company and qualifications fee pertaining to our project. We conducted these interviews with each firms on November 14th and 17th, and following the initial interviews, our committee unanimously decided to bring SP plus A back in for a second interview, which was held right after Thanksgiving on November 28th. No other firms were invited back. Following the second interview with SP plus A, Silver Petroselli, the building committee met on December 7th and voted unanimously to recommend the town of Woodbridge retain and enter into a contract with SP plus A for architectural engineering associate and engineering services associated with the center building renovation project. SP plus A has a proven track record on both previous and current projects. If you remember, they were the architect for the new firehouse, which turned out to be very successful. and also assisted us with some of the renovation in the existing firehouse, the old firehouse, when we added some mechanical systems or whatever. They understood, it was very clear that they understood all the parameters and requirements for our project, and their fees were essentially lump sum based, which in our estimation were fair and reasonable, where some of the other fees were predicated on percentage based, etc. And we attached a copy of their original fee proposal. At this December 7th meeting, our committee also discussed retaining the services of SP plus A, as well for the AE services associated with the STEEP grant for the center building gym renovation, which we understand the town has received in the amount of, $500,000. SP plus A prepared the budget estimate for this project early on at the request of the town, and they which aided the town to obtain the grant. Our committee therefore unanimously voted to recommend the town retain the services of SP plus A for this project as well. As the work associated with the STEEP grant for the gym was also included in the scope of the main project that we originally went on, Tony and I reached out to David Stein of SP plus A to have them update their fee proposals, not only for the STEEP grant work, but also any revisions to their original fee proposal. They submitted an updated fee proposal on December 8th, outlining their fees for both projects. Following this receipt, Tony and I expressed some concern. We contacted David and we asked them to qualify and revise their fee proposals, which in fact they did on December 29th. At a building committee meeting held on January 5th, which David Stein was present along with Tony, the 1229 fee proposal was carefully reviewed. Predicated on this, our committee voted to accept the updated fee proposal from SP plus A and make the following recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for their authorization of expenditures as follows. I'm going to jump to the STEEP grant because that's probably the easiest thing to get into first, but we'd like to enter into a separate agreement with SP plus A in the amount of $27,250 for AE services related to the STEEP grant, which is the center gym renovation. This is for all 5 phases, start to finish, doing all the preliminary design development, construction admin, and construction documents, as which we understand the funds for the construction are readily available. This will allow us to immediately proceed with this project and not delay it while the main center building renovation proceeds. And that'll be a lot more, that'll take a little bit more time. And so that's something we'd like to, that's item number 1 we'd like to get authorization from. The second thing we'd like to do is we'd like to enter into an agreement with SP plus A for AE services related to phases 1 through 5 of their center building renovation project, but only authorizing the expenditures of $55,000 for phase 1 at this time. It is extremely important for us, our committee feels, that we need to study the building, as the center building is just about 100 years old, needs to be studied. We need to look at the exterior wall. We need to come up with recommendations and options and look at some of the issues which are in that building. Look at the windows, look at the roofing, look at the flashings, look at the insulation, as well as look at the mechanical, the age, the mechanical and the electrical systems are totally outdated in there, and they are functional, but they're not working very well. As part of that, SP plus A will do a complete study, and I've outlined here from the RFQ what they're going to be doing, and including in the center building is going to be the renovation of PD, which has been talked about for a long time. That's been on the docket for 12 years. We did a study back in 09, I believe, and Human Services Office, and also of the daycare area. And what we said is the daycare area, their lease expires June 30th of 23. So we're not sure whether or not the town at this time is going to extend the lease or not, but that's something that we will need to consider if we're going to do that as well. But it does not include the senior center space, which is currently under renovation for the senior center. And along with their recommendations and options, we'll get estimates for each of those recommendations and options, and it'll essentially give us a shopping list of what they're recommending us, what they're recommending the town do moving forward, so that we can make an informed decision how to proceed. This in no way is going to authorize phases 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever it is going forward. We will proceed on a phase by phase basis. So if phase 1 gets approved and we understand and we go through, then what we're saying is then what we would like to do then is put the money for phases 2 and 3 into next year's budget, so that in case phase 1, if we do phase 1 and we get an approval after phase 1 proceed, then we'd like to have the money available for next year. And also, I've also put in this memo, due to the magnitude and the size and the complexity of the project, our committee would also like to retain the services of a construction manager, CM, once phase 1 has been completed. Not now, but after we go through phase 1, and once it's determined that we are going to proceed, a CM would be instrumental in the development of phasing plans, because there's going to be a lot of temporary moves from PD, also Human Services, and also the daycare center. So as we proceed with this work, we're going to have to temporarily move some of PD to another area, keep them operational. Same thing with Human Services. Same thing with the daycare center. I think and the CM process worked extremely well for the new firehouse project, which I was on the building committee for. So, and an estimate for just the pre-construction services of a CM would be in a range of maybe $20,000 or so, if that. But that'll then get rolled in if we decide to go with the overall project. It'll get rolled into the overall price of the project. So. And that's essentially where we are. So we're asking for the authorization for us to approve Silver Petroselli in the amount of $27,250 for the steep grant work regarding the center gym. And we'd like to also, and we're asking for the authorization, the expenditures of $55,000, so we can authorize SP+A to proceed with their investigative work of the center building. And it is extremely important because we've done a lot of work to date. We've come a long way since we started, and really we'd like to continue with this project and not. The longer we delay it, we were talking about at our last meeting that escalation is now estimated at 6% a year. So the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost us later on. So I just wanted to point that fact out to you. So if anybody should have any questions, let me know. I'll be more than glad to address anything that anybody comes up.
Thank you, Dwight. Anybody have any questions to begin with? I'm sorry.
I have one to ask, right? So this phase 1 will include what exactly, or as much as you can say at this point?
If the memo I issued, that's your package, it'll be on pages 4. It'll be on pages 4, 5, and part of 6. You want me to read part of it?
No, I just wanted to give you the Reader's Digest version. This is which,
Well, what it is that essentially is they're asking us to work in unison with our building committee to plan, design, construct, and recommend.
no, that's not, no,
Okay.
I mean, I probably wasn't clear. Oh, I wonder what parts of the center building are gonna be affected, in phase one?
The whole building.
The whole building is
We're
gonna
gonna
be,
we're gonna be investigating the entire exterior of the center building. Entire roof of the center building, all the windows within the center building. We're gonna be looking at the mechanical and the electrical systems within within the center building.
okay, so phase one is a phase of Silver Petroselli's work, not a phase of, work on the building itself.
It's correct.
Correct, okay, all right. And they can't have any estimates yet as to what
No.
the cost will be, okay. All right,
This is one of the, this is why we're looking to proceed with this phase, so that we can get an understanding of exactly what they're recommending be done with specific options along with cost estimates. So then it'll give us mainly a shopping list of we can proceed with this, or we can, it'll give us some parameters of what to proceed with.
right, so, um, what is the big picture as to what's gonna be done with this building?
What we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna renovate PD. Okay, the entire police department hasn't been renovated, and I don't remember how long, but it's gonna be in looking to renovate, update a lot of their systems, their areas. It's gonna be, and possibly relocating some of it, all depends on what the architect comes up with. Some of it into the actual center building out of PD. Same thing with human services. They're gonna be they're gonna be meeting with Jeanette Blitzman to go through to find out what her needs are, find out, what they need for space within the center building and that. So that's basically it's going to be renovating PD, modernizing that, updating human services. And I'm assuming, we're assuming that the gym, that the fitness center on the second floor is going to be relocated to the old firehouse. And if that it'll open up space there that the architect can use for swing space and also permanent going forward.
What about the gymnasium we have on the first floor?
We're not really doing much. We're not really doing much on the first floor. All right. The first floor is essentially the center, bridge center, and then the gym, and
Right.
the gym is going to be under a separate steep grant, and we're splitting that scope out. Originally, it was included in here.
This is for the big gym?
Yeah,
Okay.
by the canopy. When you drive,
Yep, that one,
it's the gym there.
where we have the town meetings.
Yes.
Are we going to be air conditioning that and improving the sound system there?
Yes.
We are, okay.
One of the things in the charge as part of the steep grants is to renovate that entire area, renovate and make the bathrooms down there, adjacent bathrooms, ADA. And also put in a mechanical and a new mechanical and electrical system for airflow and all that. Because right, we really don't have a system in the gym.
Okay, thank you.
I had just a quick question, Dwight. Thank you for all this information. This is very helpful. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned the construction management CM services. So tonight you're asking us to do the architectural and engineering services that would encompass all 5 phases, but only the A&E portion of the work. And then do we need to go out to bid for CM, or what's your vision for that?
No, we're going to be going out once we all decide, that the town decide, if after we get the input from phase one, and if it's all positive and it fits and everything else, then we would then go out and we would solicit bids from CMs. And then at that time, then we would come back to you with our recommendation and everything else, as we did with the new firehouse. Years
Okay,
ago.
so essentially the architectural engineering services that you're asking for tonight will allow you to come back with a price tag for the whole project, or a rough price tag for the whole project, so that then we could get construction management, as long as we're going ahead with the
Right.
associated price tag, right?
Right. No,
Okay.
that's correct. The thing is, right now, is we're asking with this expenditure at 55, then we can release the architect to start their study of the existing building, come up with all their recommendations, what needs to be done, what needs to be corrected, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed out, especially the mechanical and electrical systems, which are really aged in that building. To update them to code and everything, lighting and everything. So at least we'll have, and then following that, we'll have a list of recommendations along with pricing for each. So it'll give us a shopping list of what we can do or whatever.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
and then once that's done, then we can, and if we move forward, then we can proceed with the CM approach later on.
So do you have a sense of at what point in time you'll have that information for us about the project scope and cost? Is it 6 months from now, or?
Probably we talked to David when he was in the other day, and it was probably 2 to 3 months. Probably, I would say we're now in the middle of January. I would say March, February, March, probably middle of April. We
Okay,
could do something there or whatever.
great.
So,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Anyone else have, excuse me, anyone else have any questions?
Again, I just want to clear, we're not committing any dollars or anything to anybody, or even construction. This is very important for us to do this study so that we understand exactly what is involved to renovate this building.
Go ahead,
So
David.
Dwight, this study is just to get our arms around exactly what we need to do in the grand scheme of things for this building.
It's correct. Correct.
Dwight, I had a couple of questions. First, thanks to you and your committee for all the hard work you're doing. I'm really glad that you're the chair. It's in your hands, because I know that your experience in this area is really important to the town. Wanted to ask, the renovations that are ongoing right now in the senior center, there must have been some assessments of the exterior and some of that part of the building before we started on that. Do you have a sense of any of that from your experience there?
Well, I'm really not that much involved in the senior center renovation, but I have been talking to David, and he has found some issues that we may encounter in the rest of the center building, especially on the exterior wall above the windows. And if we have to go through any of that or whatever it is, he's found some issues that we may have to deal with. But at least he has knowledge of it now so that he can build it in.
And do you think that some of that experience will help guide what you're about to do with phase one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Just another couple of questions. In the architect's bid, was this the lowest bid, or was it, what led your committee to Silver Petrocelli? Were they the lowest bidder, or were they just?
They were, if we take a look at the overall scheme, they were probably the lowest, most qualified bidder. There were bidders out there who gave us a percentage of, say, 4 to 5%, but of the final construction value.
Mm-hmm.
Where SP plus A came in and said, here's a lump sum, whether or not it's a $10 million project, $15 million project, or whatever it is, we're not going to charge any more. So, a lot of the other fees were based on a percentage basis.
Right. And so you mentioned
much higher.
You mentioned that this was then a lump sum. What should we move forward with some of these projects? Because we get our laundry list, and you make your decisions about where we ought to go. And I'm assuming that Silver Petrocelli would continue on as the architects and engineers in the project. Would they then be getting another contract for that part of it, or is it, or is that, is any of this preliminary included in that?
What we're asking you to do is to enter into an agreement. We're gonna have a separate agreement for the gym, for the steep grant. We should keep that separate because the fees should be separate and all that. And then we're asking you to do a separate agreement with SP plus A for the rest of the building, which includes phases 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all 5 phases. But the thing is, the only thing we're going to authorize them to do if we proceed is phase 1, which is the all the investigations and the initial budgeting. And then if that doesn't fly, well, then we don't have to proceed with the rest of the contract.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Anybody other questions? Okay, Dwight, thank you so very much. We have, we're coming up shortly with the rest of there's proposals under funding requests, and we'll discuss it and get back to you. Tony, is there anything else we need to do under action as appropriate with this at this point?
So I think there's a difference between sort of acknowledging that Silver Petrocelli will be the architect for the project and then funding each phase.
Mm-hmm.
So while I think Dwight's looking for at least the board to acknowledge that we will select Silver Petrocelli amongst the 3 or 4 bidders that we received as the architect for the project, correct, Dwight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then through funding, you could, through funding requests, you'll then fund the steep grant work and then phase, 1, and then at a later date, phase 2, and the contract will, we will not be obligated to all 5 phases if you choose Silver Petrocelli, just each phase as they're funded.
Understood. Okay.
That's correct.
Correct, yeah.
So at this point, it sounds like you need a motion from someone on the Board of Selectmen to choose Silver Petrocelli for phase 1 of the center building, as well as the 27, whatever, well, we have.
I think I think, Dwight, you feel free to chime in here, but
I
I
just
think
want to get the right motion.
Yeah, I think the motion.
Correct.
I think the motion should be is to enter into a contract with SP plus A for the work related to the steep grant for the center gym. That should be one motion. In the amount of $27,250.
Well,
So moved.
wait, we can't approve the funding until we get to funding requests. So it's just sort of entering into an agreement, right? In the funding.
Enter an agreement with for
Okay.
all 5 for phases 1 through 5
Of the steep grant. This
in
is
their proposal.
the gymnasium part.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Sheila, you accept that? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe.
So I'm just not sure I understood exactly, because when I look at phase 1 through 5 on the SPNA proposal, I see $394,000. So if you're talking about just the steep grant part, that's a small piece, right? Is that what we're talking about now?
That's
Yes,
correct.
we're doing.
Yeah, David, if you looked at their proposal, revised proposal of December 29th,
Yeah, I did.
they've split it out.
Yep.
There's for the main project, their
Yep.
fees is $390,100 for all 5 phases.
Right.
And then if we do the steep grant work, it's $27,250.
I see. Though that's the second piece, which also has 5 phases.
That's
Right.
correct.
So
Okay.
that's the motion that's.
We're talking about the
right
steep
now.
grant right now, right? We're not talking about the other piece.
Right, this is the one for all 5 phases related
Okay.
to the steep grant.
Okay. That
Correct.
was all I was
Yeah,
just asking for
good
that clarification.
clarification. Okay. Any other comments on the motion before us? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unanimously approved. That's part 1. Dwight, don't sign out. Okay.
Okay.
And the second motion, I believe, is to enter into an agreement with, again, Silver Petrocelli and Associates for phase one,
It's 1 through 5.
which will be, okay,
It's through 1 through 5 for the entire center building project. However, we're only gonna, and then we have the option, as Tony said, we're gonna exercise payment. We're gonna authorize them to proceed for each phase following if we go through phase one, then if phase one gets approved, then we can authorize phase two. But it's all part of the one agreement.
okay, and phase one is the 55.
That's correct.
Okay, but we're not gonna vote on that right now. We're just gonna vote to authorize
That's correct.
us to enter into an agreement with SP and A for phase 1 through 5 of the center building project.
Correct.
Okay,
So I'll make that motion as well.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Any other comments or questions on this? I think I
Yeah,
understand.
I
Go
have
ahead,
a-
David.
Beth, I have a question for Jerry. Jerry, you there?
He's here.
Yeah, okay. So if we're entering into an agreement with them, does that obligate us for the rest of the money at some point?
We're only obligated when we fund contracts. So generally, a municipality doesn't have to continue with the payment unless there's funding. And I think that's what Tony was alluding to, right, Tony?
That's correct. So far, we don't have funding for any of this.
But there's no funding, and it's got to be made clear to Silver Petroselli, who knows that everything we can approve it, but it's not binding on the town until we make a funding allocation.
And Jerry, to make that funding, at this level, do we do it piece at a time? I mean, at this level, to do that funding, do we have to go to a town meeting or a town referendum or something because of the volume, the amount of money, or can we just do that through our normal capital budget process, I assume?
I can make a comment on that. So the idea was to fund the initial phase only, and then the remainder of the funding, phases 2 and 3, will be in the budget process, which will go to a town meeting. And then phases 4 and 5 will be funded through the bond referendum. So of course, which would also go to a town meeting. So really, the only funding that you would be acting on as a board without the town meeting portion is 55,000 for the first phase.
Right.
Thank you. That's what I had assumed, but I just wanted to be sure when I vote, what I was voting on.
Okay, so with that, we now have that motion and clarified as well, and we have a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of that second motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, unanimous again. Dwight, thank you for sticking with us and getting all of our questions answered.
No problem. Anybody has any questions, I'm around, so
Great.
you got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Stay
No problem.
warm and stay safe and healthy.
You too.
Gonna try. Thank you. Okay, it is not 6 o'clock yet, so I think we could start with the Administrative Officer's Director of Finances report. I'll call on Tony for item A, which is the monthly report.
Thank you, Beth.
Welcome.
We have our monthly report through the first half of the fiscal year. And that monthly report is pretty much a surplus of about $400,000. So what that means is with our allocation from $400,000 from fund balance, we would have no change at the end of the year. So we're pretty much with our surplus, have covered the fund balance appropriation that we make in the budget each year. Most of that comes from revenues, and that is still the case as it was last month. Our interest income is still doing very well, and there's a surplus there of about $290,000. We will make an adjustment in the budget process to account for the increase for next year's budget. And we have a slight increase in intergovernmental revenue of about $12,000. We do have a surplus in our municipal revenue sharing account. We receive more money from the state than we'd anticipated. It's about $180,000. but we are anticipating a shortfall in special education excess cost grant funds reported by the Woodbridge Board of Education. They typically calculate that for us each year and provide an estimate in the budget process. And the estimate that was provided in last year's budget process is not going, we're not going to receive. So we have a deficit there. And finally, we received $23,456 in opioid settlement funds. Those are opioid settlement funds are for basically two settlements. One with Johnson and Johnson, which was the manufacturer, and then one with the distributors of opioids. And so there's like a schedule for each, and we will be receiving them in several years, a multi-year period, and this is the first year. On expenses, we have some deficits probably coming in natural gas. As you all know, we locked into a much higher rate than we had when we created the budget. There is a funding request this month for fire apparatus repairs prepared by the fire chief. He presented a few months back. The current deficit through December 31st is $26,848. Our waste management is experiencing a deficit of approximately $50,000. Beth alluded to a little bit of this, but we do have some increased tonnage at the transfer station with solid waste, which will be made up in part by our fees. So that's not too terrible, but a lot of the deficit comes from the recycling deficits that we're experiencing. And our current per ton is about $99 a ton that we have to pay to dispose of recycling. We do not charge a tip fee on recycled products, so that is all paid by the town. When we in July we were paying $37 a ton, so it's a very volatile market. And 5 or so years back, we were actually receiving money for recycling. So it's a very volatile market indeed, and so it may change, but at the moment that's our calculation. And finally, the Amity budget has a surplus of $134,046, which is the amount that we owe Amity due to the failed referenda earlier in the spring. This does not include the surplus that, from what I understand, will be returned to the towns in the form of a reduced payment. So if they're not actually sending the surplus money to the town, but actually will be reducing one of our payments even further during the fiscal year. I'm not exactly sure how much that is, but I'll report that next month. So.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Tony on the monthly report?
Yeah, I do, Tony. Where are you getting 4.5%? What do you have invested in that you're getting 4.5%?
So we have most of our money is aside from that's a good portion of our funds anyway are in the state treasurer's short-term investment fund. Actually, if you go on the state treasurer's website, it shows the fund. It's a investment pool that the town invests funds in, and they have a series of investments, and that's the rate currently. I looked at the daily rate when I did the letter. That was the daily rate at that time, and you could see the rate and the history of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's not open to the general public, I would imagine.
I don't think so. No, it's just for state agencies. Most of the money in STIF is the state agencies, but a lot of towns also invest in STIF because it's the one vehicle that's generates higher rates than your typical municipal investments.
I get it. Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's that. Okay, we're moving on to item B, which is funding requests, and you have in your packet first one is this is a line item transfer number 2223-16 in the amount of $4,225.85. This is to transfer election grant funds to the town clerk's election supply budget line item. I will motion approval of that line item transfer in the amount of 4225.85. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions or discussion on this, or Tony, you want to elaborate if anyone has any questions? It's pretty
Pretty
self-explanatory.
straightforward, right?
Yeah. Okay, hearing no comments, questions, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, got 5 hands. Okay, 6 hands. Sorry. My hand's number 6. Okay. Thank you. That's approved. The next one is funding request number 2223-17 in the amount of $58,000. This is what Tony alluded to fund unforeseen repairs to fire apparatus. And there was an attached memo from the fire chief. This would come out of contingency. And here we are in January, looking to take out $58,000 from contingency. Little bit of concerns here right now. It sounds like the deficit they're running right now is at about 26,848, Tony?
That's correct. That's as of December 31st. So I'm not sure if there's been any expenditure since then, but that was December 31st.
So, actually, I'm not gonna make an approval motion for this yet. We have to discuss this a little bit. Do you have some thoughts on this, Tony, as to what we could do? Without tapping our contingency at this amount, I'm concerned about this.
Well, historically, what we've have done in the past, the Board of Finance has done in the past is tabled the funding request until to see if the town, the department can fund some of that within their operations. And then they would sort of keep an eye on contingency to make sure they have enough to fund it. Should they not be able to do that? That's historically how the board has handled these funding requests, the Board of Finance, that is. Will they have any expenditures in this year's budget? We've seen a lot of increases in costs, as you can all imagine. And so I'm not sure that would be the case this year. That's one option. Obviously, the other option is to fund it, or you can fund a portion of it.
Is it possible to fund a portion of it, like maybe 25,000 or something like that?
Good.
I guess I'll look to the board as to what you think we should do. I don't want to do this by myself, obviously. But they're at about 26.8 right now. So if we funded,
You fund 30 of it.
I have a deep concern about touching contingency till we get through the next few months with SNOW. I don't even want to say that word. So, heavens.
You said that the Board of Finance would typically table it? Is that what I heard?
That's what they've done in the past. Is I'm not sure if that's the technical term for it, but what they've done in the past is not acted on the funding request until the further into the fiscal year to see if the department could absorb some. Rightfully so, the department is hesitant to do that so early in the year because there's still 6 months left in the year before their budget is completed. If the year is completed, so but occasionally, the budget is a prediction. So occasionally, that things will, you could save money here or put something off there, and that's how it's been done in the past. But the department has put the town on notice and the boards on notice that they have this issue, so that at least everyone understands the problem.
If it's finance that puts the hold on the money, what's our role in it exactly?
I think, am I right? We have to approve something to send to them and then they
Correct.
decide. We have
correct.
to act partially and then, or whatever we choose to do tonight in order for them to next week decide to
That's
table
correct.
it, fund it
If you don't-
partially.
Right, if you don't act on it, they'll never see it.
Right,
I see.
right.
So Tony,
Good.
if we were to take the approach you mentioned of recommending like 30,000 of it, does that help them for planning purposes? Because the last thing we would want is for them to not be able to get repairs done that are needed at a cost that we know of today before things escalate. How do you
Right.
feel? Does this give them enough room if we were to partially
I
fund?
think you would, if you've partially funded it and acknowledged that, you understand there's still a potential for an additional funding, should it be necessary. I think that could work.
Yeah, because it is important that they give us the full scope and then perhaps they can work to get that scope down, but if not, they've informed us now and we always want timely information, so.
Correct, right.
I'd be comfortable with a recommendation to the Board of Finance. Ultimately, Board of Finance needs to make that decision as well, but
So with that being said, would someone like to come up with a motion to do something to get it to the Board of Finance next week?
yeah, do we want to say 30,000?
Sounds like a good motion.
Is there
Yes.
a specific
Yeah.
dollar amount that's good, Tony? What do you think?
No, as long as it's more than the current deficit, which is 20, so I'd say
Any
30.
increment, they'll know what to do. They'll prioritize any.
Okay, so we'll shoot them 30,
Okay,
right? Is that good
Okay, so
consensus
30 is
there?
reasonable. Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm looking at this memorandum here, listing the pieces of equipment and the problems that they have. At least 4 of these look like they're going to be inoperable for firefighting. Am I reading that correctly? It looks like T1 and T5 and 9 and 2 probably are going to be inoperative fighting fires.
I think that's probably the case with all of them from time to time until they get them repaired.
Right.
So what they would do is what they've done in the past is the Board of Finance has indicated that they, could have to repair the vehicles.
Well,
And,
yeah,
and then they would, if they don't have the money within their budget to transfer at the end of the year, then the Board of Finance would then cover the balance.
Hmm.
So this is sort of the worst case scenario
Mhm.
from contingency.
Well, okay.
So, Tony, this allows them to make transfers within their own line items to cover as much of this list as they feel they need to do.
No, but I'm just saying that's historically how the Board of Finance has handled these types of requests.
Well,
So, I mean, under that scenario, under those previous scenarios, the Board of Selectmen had approved of the entire amount. And then the Board of Selectmen, to acknowledge that it's in fact something that could potentially need to be funded. And then the Board of Finance would then take that and just, say, maybe hold off on it and to wait a few more months. That's another option.
I'm confused. Don't these repairs need to be done fairly soon?
Right, so they would be done, the repairs would be done.
They would be done, but they would not be paid for at the time that they're done.
They would be, no, the department would have surplus, still has money in their budget. When I say their budget, I mean their department budget, the whole budget.
Right.
So there may be other lines that they can transfer from, and so that's what the board would weigh.
But they're not asking for a line item transfer. They're asking for
Contingency,
contingency.
right, that's
Okay.
why, that's the issue.
we would essentially be saying to them, we could recommend 30,000 and then please come back with line item transfers. That might cover the rest,
Or if they can't, then it'll be a second contingency transfer,
which we could do the following.
which you can also do. That's an option also.
okay. Well, somebody want to make a motion for something?
I think Joe made the motion for 30,000. I'll second that.
Okay, at this point, any other discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Yeah, I think, is everyone voting aye? Hands up, I think we got everybody. David Lober, are you okay with that too? Aye? Yep, thanks, okay, sorry.
I voted
Yeah,
early.
see, Trying to look at all the boxes in one quick swoop here. All right, thank you
Took
so much.
advantage of early voting.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see, where are we here? It's fire. Okay, this is the next one is line item transfer number 2223-18 in the amount of 27,250. This is a line item transfer, not from contingency at this point. This is for the thing that the item that we discussed from Dwight. This is phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. funding for the, am I right about that?
This is for the steep grant
Right, for the
only,
renovation of the center gym.
for the
Okay,
center gym, right?
right, okay, so I'll make that motion that we approve line item transfer number 2223-18 in the amount of 27,250. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, further discussion or comments or questions on this?
Is this, where's this, does this also come out of contingency? Where's this coming?
No,
This is coming from capital, this is will be in the capital budget, and this is coming from, previous capital projects that were, didn't utilize all their funds.
it says on the second part of the memo we got, prior year purchase orders from capital non-recurring. That's what CNR is, right, Tony?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, so at least we're not touching contingency on this.
Okay.
So with that, any other questions? Just want to make sure everybody's comfortable. Looks good. All in favor? All at once. Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got everybody. Okay, thank you.
So I did not do a funding request for phase one of the entire project for 55,000. If that's something the board is interested in, I can certainly prepare one for your next meeting.
You have to figure out where it's going to come from because it's not funded at all.
Right.
And to hit contingency again for 55,000, so we can, hopefully they can just hold off a little bit. We'll keep an eye on contingency and the weather and all the other good stuff. And
I'll see if there's any, other opportunities that come up.
yeah, at least we got one done. So we're moving a little bit. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
And what else? Is that it?
That's it.
Funding requests and line item transfers, great. Next we have on the agenda the pool financials, which is very informative. Tony, I'll let you take this one.
This was a request back a few months about how much the pool costs. So this is a snapshot of the
I'm gonna run down the hallway for 1 second, please, but keep going.
Yep, this is a snapshot of sort of what we spend on the pool. It's spent out of 4 different budgets, so I tried to put those all together for you. There's a pool and gym budget, which includes maintenance, some custodial charges, and chemicals and supplies for the pool. So that's essentially where the maintenance is done for the pool. There's a recreation budget, which has a lot of the programming costs. There is also some custodial charges in there. There are some costs for checking and users of the pool, lifeguards, programming at the pool for a pool director. And so you'll see, so that's 116,000. Maintenance was 96,000. So there's employee benefits related to salaries for and those are about 15,000. And then the hardest one to figure, which I'm not even, it would take a lot of work, is the impact of the utilities on the Board of Education budget. And that would be electricity, natural gas, and some water. And so that's probably a very low estimate on what that'll cost. And that would require a lot more work. So I just wanted to put something in there to acknowledge that, we'd have to determine the equipment and how often it runs and how much electricity it uses and the temperature of the water. And
So Tony, that would only be if that portion of the building was not going to have any electricity use, any heating.
right.
Of course, it would, and it would, if it were to not be utilized as a pool and instead used as classroom space, then that all those costs would revert to the Board of Ed. So it wouldn't come out of our pocket. It would just come out of the other pants pocket.
We'd save some electricity because you wouldn't be using the pumps for the pool and the filter for the pool and the dehumidification system and a few other things.
Heating of that water is probably the biggest piece of
Yeah,
that.
heating of the water, right? Although we put the new it takes the heat off the main boilers,
Yes.
right? So I'm not sure exactly how much.
Well, we might be able to sink that into heating the space.
Right, exactly. So and then the average pooling related income is about $55,000. That's from the recreation department. So you can, it sort of lays out, how much the pool costs and how much income we receive. I also thought it'd be helpful to see the membership of the pool and what it's been throughout the years. I included that also.
Gone.
So Tony, that column for 21-22, that's the most up-to-date membership numbers we have. We don't have 20.
That's 22, 23. No, I just did 22 up to 22. I don't have 23. I can get those for you.
It's 100
Because
people
I
that
think
we're
they've
serving.
changed substantially, right?
Yeah.
So they're about, looks like they're about 100 members that we are serving. On the average, I mean, 80, 90 some years, 110, 120 other years.
It's
Right.
certainly been trending lower than 100, though.
Yeah.
And it was, in fairness, it was, because of pool not being in operation and under COVID, you could see there was a low number that year, those 2 years.
Tony, I remember when the Recreation Commission gave us a summary of this. It struck me that our pool usage fees were quite a bit less than other pools around the area. Is that an area where we ought to look at it? Because it does seem like if we're paying $177,000 a year for 100 people, that's kind of, or fewer, that's kind of a lot of money.
Right. We could. I know they look at them regularly, but we can still continue to if we move forward with the pool.
But I don't think that number reflects the number of people who use that pool.
It doesn't, I can tell you what it doesn't include. It does not reflect the Woodridge Aquatic Club.
And it doesn't reflect swim lessons either, which is a very important part of what that pool is used for.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
correct.
So,
That's
yeah.
just a membership that supports that's just a membership.
The,
Right.
the swim lessons associated with Beecher Road School, but the paid for swim lessons, you have to be a member to do swim lessons, or do we not charge membership for that?
Not sure.
I don't think you have to be a member.
That's it.
There are lots of ways of looking at numbers.
Of course, there is. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So this is another piece of the puzzle.
That's all. Yeah.
Right. At this point, we can put this together and we still have to consider what we're going to do with the pool.
Well, we're going to fix the pool, aren't we?
We have to decide that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so think about this, digest the numbers, and we'll get this on the agenda for next month. Is there any other data you feel you might need to make a decision? Any board members?
There's something we discussed in the strategic planning scenario was to get a better sense of what any option might be. So we did, actually at the Beecher Road School Building Committee level, we asked the Woodbridge Board of Ed and the superintendent to come back to us with kind of the scope of what they are doing for their Learn to Swim program, and to consider any kind of options they might be able to do if they were going to continue that program as part of the regular school day curriculum, but instead relocate, say, over to the JCC. Certainly this year, as they have not had access to the pool, not teaching anyone to swim, obviously. So what would it cost to put students on a bus, transport them over? And they had done a rundown for us. Tony, I think did we share that with the full Board of Selectmen? We have like a 2-page memo from the school.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know we shared it with the building committee. We can. We can
Let's do that. And then the other, I think after seeing that memo, the other question that we kind of put back to them was, well, and their biggest concern was the amount of time it would take to transport kids over to another pool to do during the school day. They just don't have the leeway in their time. They have too much curriculum to deliver in too short a period of time. So then the other thing that we asked them to explore was, well, what if you had a limited program that became an after school or a weekend program, but the school still paid for it because it considered it part of their curriculum. So just deliver the curriculum outside the school day in a way that transportation maybe was arranged by parents directly or was maybe some other efficient way. So I think if we could get some further information, because I agree, the use of the pool to teach children, the school age children, to swim, it's a very important use. So um, I think we need to know if there are any other options for us to be able to continue to do that for the children of our community. Um, and if not, then that helps inform our decision about what to do with the pool. Is that kind of what we were discussing, David, in the strategic planning committee? I know we had a little bit of conversation about.
We did, yeah, that's basically exactly what you said.
Okay, so that'll be very helpful.
So we'll
We'll
get
get
that,
this-
that information for the next Board of Selectmen meeting. guys.
Please, yeah, exactly. Okay, sounds good. It's 6:10. We can, I think, just move on the other couple items and then we'll zip back to public comment. Don't let me forget. Tend to skip items if they're not standing on jumping out in front of me. So with that, we'll move to item D, which is the bid award. And Tony, I'll let you explain this. 457 plan.
So the town has a 457 plan, which is a plan for all full-time employees to withdraw money from their pay at a pre-tax basis and then invest the funds in a series of investment options with providers. There's no town money involved in this. This is all strictly employees and their own funds. Town doesn't spend any money on this particular this 457 plan. So we had three plans, three different vendors that we provided as options for our employees, and our goal was to do an RFP to get better pricing and improved plan designs. So we went out to bid for 10 response. We got 10 responses. We wanted to consolidate to one vendor, and we had a panel of various employees from different bargaining units, different levels, some managers and police officers, and just a variety of employees to help with the decision. And the group unanimously voted to recommend Empower, which there was a write-up on Empower to be the provider for our 457B plan. And so that is our recommendation. The going to one provider will save over $40,000 in fees to our employees and provide the same level of service, because the fee is a lot lower when you only have one provider. So.
Thank you. I'll make a motion and we can ask questions or discuss it further. I would recommend that we hire Empower as a sole provider of a 457 plan to the town of Woodbridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, David. Any discussion, questions, or for Tony on this?
Tony, if we make a change, is there any chance of, if it turns out to be a bad suggestion for and something that's not our fault, might we?
We're not locked in. Yeah, we're not locked in. You could change it anytime.
Right, but can there be a loss? I don't want the employees to have a loss to themselves.
No, so what we're locking in is the fees that each employee would be charged to participate for administrative fees. That's the cost for the employee. Once you do that, there's a series of investment options that are not proprietary to the vendor, that the employee can choose based on their risk profile. So there's,
Tony, I have a dumb question. As an employee, can I vote on this? Does it impact me at all?
good question.
I just thought of it.
Good question.
I don't think you.
Jerry.
You can vote. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Just popped in my head. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions that are not dumb like that? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand, please, and aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4, 5, 6. Okay, we got everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, and not lastly yet, but fuel bid results, just an update, just
It's
more
just
to
an
the
update on what we
FYI.
locked into, right? We locked into 2.6680 for gasoline and 3.0744 for diesel.
Nice.
So those are our rates for the coming year.
Pretty good.
It's medium grade gasoline, in case you were wondering.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you have an other?
No, that's it.
No other, okay. And now it's 6:15, actually my 6:15, we can go back to public comment. I guess I'll ask first, Jerry Shaw, are there any folks out in the audience or wanting to go forward with public comment? We'll do that first.
All right, I'll check the people that are in the waiting room.
Thank you.
Yes, Daniel, you have something to say?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi there.
Oh.
Just name, address, and keep it to about 2-3 minutes if you could, please. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Daniel Del Pre, 11 Maple Vale Drive, here in Woodbridge. I just had a couple questions. So I was listening earlier about the proposal for the renovations to the center building, and you referenced the steep grant, I believe it was. So I was just curious about what that funding is tied to and what it's allocated to. And if I understood correctly, so you're voting 5 stages to approve $300,000+ just for the design work to be done, not counting any contracting. So I was curious about that, and then also the discussions related to the pool. Could those grants be used for the pool renovation? I know it was discussion about busing kids and moving kids and everything. To have a pool in this community, not only for the students but also for everyone else that's available. I don't want the undervalued, and would like to see further discussion. I know Beth mentioned that it'll be on the agenda for next month with the discussion, but I think there's a lot more that goes into that than just dismissing the pool. And I'd hate to see the pool just sit there and go to waste while we talk about committing over $250,000 in just design, not even project alone. So those are my two statements and questions. Is there grant money that could be allocated, or even COVID money that could be allocated for the pool? I just don't want to see that go. That's an asset and something that attracts people to our town and the school system. So I would like to see the pool stay. And then I know there was that was it. Sorry,
Okay,
I got
that's
sidetracked,
okay.
but that was all.
We don't usually respond to public comment, but what I can do is get back to you with answers to both of those, if that would help.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, Jerry?
I'm checking.
Okey doke.
Bob Hill? Bob Hill, you have something to?
Yep, I'm trying to get in here.
You're there. We're hearing you.
Name and
Okay.
address and possible 2 minutes, 3 minutes, because we got a big agenda here. Thank you.
I got you. Okay, my reputation
Bob.
precedes me. Okay. All right, I just have two things. Thanks so much, Bob Hill, 68 Acorn Hill Road. Actually, Dan actually covered some of what I was asking. Interestingly, I came in part of the discussion that Dwight was going over and was talking about the architect fee being, typically 4 to 5% or whatever. Pretty familiar with the process. We just actually going through bidding out, hiring an architect for a 25,000 square foot building. And, same type of thing. We had 3 different architects, provide their bid. And we went through the qualifications as to, who was the most qualified and where the bids fell. And then once we had the bid, the actual percent of even the lowest bidder was 5%. And we proceeded then to focus on that particular architect, which it sounds like when we go through an RFP, and I know this isn't a question and answer, so I have to make some assumptions in my comments. So what happens is with the RFP, you end up with who you feel is the qualified applicant is or vendor, and a number.
once that happens, and I think the difference is when we've gone through this, we end up then meeting with that architect and say, let's go through your bid and let's see if we can work that down. And we ended up with a contract that's about 3%, not 5%. Started at about 250,000. We ended up at about $180,000 for a project we're working on. So I'm making the comment. I'm not looking for a response, but it's certainly, I think, certainly our taxes are high enough here in Woodbridge with our mill rate, and certainly if there's any reprieve that we can get to save money where we can, that would be absolutely terrific in that way. My second comment really kind of got prompted by listening to the discussion about the pool, and I am kind of accustomed to hearing this discussion that happens in town often. I remember when we were running the pool over at the country club, which I was very much involved with at the time, where, and I've heard it about the gym across the street and so on and so forth. And you probably could go through every department in town and say, you could say, geez, how much does it cost us to run the library, and how much do we collect in fees? Geez, how much do the police cost us, and how much do they collect in tickets? How much does um, the pound cost us, and how much we collect in fees? You go through that for almost every single department, and you're going to find that you're probably going to be on the short end in each case. And there really does become a point in time that people pay taxes and certain amenities that come back with it. I do actually agree with Dave Lober and Sheila when they focus on the fact that a big part of what takes place with the pool, and it's more than 100 people because you've got maybe 100 memberships, and some are family memberships, but then you also have WAC and that whole group. But then you've got the entire population of the Beecher Road School that also goes through um, swim lessons too, which is 800 or 900 kids, which is a very valuable program that's provided to them. So I'd be a little careful about going down that path, and I know it's one that often I hear. I've heard it when we were dealing with the gym across the street. I've dealt with the pool before. I just, there's a certain amount of amenity I think that we as taxpayers, kind of expect back that you're going to get some services along with it. So anyway, that was my comment. I'm at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Thank you much for your time, and happy New Year to all of you. And thank you for the work that you all do.
Thank you, and thank you for timing yourself. That was helpful. Anyone else, Jerry?
Is there anyone else out there in TV land that wish to speak?
We did receive one comment at let's see where that was, at 2:54 p.m. They were due to be in by 3 o'clock today. So I will summarize it because it's quite long, and I would, there goes my light again. Okay, sorry about that. From Kate Rosen at 1097 Johnson Road. She writes, as part of the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, there's a grant program called Safe Streets for All. This grant supports municipalities and CCGS to do one of two things: create an action plan to address unsafe road conditions, and once the municipality of Scrog has an action plan in place, they can then apply for implementation funds. The grant program is expected to run for 5 years, and the first cycle of applications were due in September 2022. She did ask in 2022, 3 different occasions, about this grant opportunity. Scrog nor the town, I know we didn't have the bandwidth at that point, and I guess Scrog did not as well. So she's again emailed us to try to do this. The application cycle is due in April. Initially, we were going to try, I didn't realize that when I said we could try to get to it in March, but we do have a meeting with her at the end of January to discuss this. And Woodbridge can participate in the regional 2023 applications through Scrog, and she just says we cannot wait. All you have to do is attempt to go somewhere in town outside of a motor vehicle to know that this is not the Woodbridge of olden days where kids could bike everywhere. And you could get some exercise simply by walking out your front door and down the road. My guess that most parents in town would not feel comfortable sending their kids off on bikes. And if you want to walk without the constant threat of cars, you have to go to the cornfields. So that is her comment. And I don't think there were any more written.
Yes, I have one more, Chuck Pine.
Oh, he just is here. Sorry.
Yeah. Chuck?
Bring
Yes.
him on in.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Chuck.
Good evening. So I'll be under 3 minutes, promise. First of all, this remote meeting is for the birds. The world has reopened, and Beth, you and I sat at the same table at the 2030 meeting freeze out a few weeks ago. So people are outside, people are going to meetings, and for the few folks who are concerned about infection or whatever, wear a mask. But these remote meetings are limiting public comment, limiting public participation, and it's just not good government. So I'm going to ask you to not have any more of these. In fact, getting on the town website, I don't know how the other guys who spoke got on, but the link on the website meeting with the meeting announcement doesn't work. I had to type that whole bloody string in myself, and through an act of God, I got in on the first shot. So I don't know why you need a password. I don't know why it's got to be so complicated. These are public meetings. It should be easy as could be to get on to address you guys, and they're not right now. So I'm going to ask you actually to put a bullet in them and go back to live. But if that doesn't sink in, then please make it easier than typing a 48 character string to get onto these meetings. Based on the number of people who commented, Beth, your comment about the glass of the dump, for example, nobody's hearing these comments because nobody's on these damn meetings because they're remote. I think you're going to get a lot better communication if you are, getting this to the public. And frankly, in listening to your report, I was amused about your description of why we're voting in November, that the state passed a law. Well, tell the whole story. The back end of the story is that this Board of Selectmen had an opportunity to keep the vote in May, and you refused to do it. So if you're going to report, tell the whole story, because you didn't, at least not on that issue. And I would say this as a final comment. You're very focused on the beautification of Woodbridge. My mother-in-law told me a long time ago, beauty must suffer. And I'm telling you, the amount of money we're considering spending around here for beautification is going to have the taxpayers suffer. It's a pretty downtown central area now. These additional things you're talking for are all going to cost money. All our prices are going up. We're going to take a bigger hit in the Amity budget because we have more kids going to Amity than we did before. So our piece of the pie is going to be bigger. So I would ask you to throttle back on your beautification efforts. And I've heard some good comments about watching the town purse strings, the town budget now. I'd say do more of that and less beautification. Those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else out there, Jerry?
No, no one else has raised their hand.
Okay. Thank you so much. Moving on, item 6 on the agenda is the Synergem adopt the DECT resolution of authorization. Number 1, I would entertain a motion to not read out loud the resolution of authorization to file an application to the Department of Economic and Development Community. It is in your packet and it will be part of the public record. Is there a motion to waive the reading?
I'll motion to waive the reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments on that? All in favor to waive the reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That is unanimous. And with that, someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution? Well, I'll do it. I'll make a motion that we adopt the DECD resolution of authorization to file an application to the Department of Economic and Community Development for improvements to the center building, gymnasium, its air handling system, and renovation and modernization of the adjacent public and handicapped lavatories. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, David Lober? Thanks. Okay, great. That one's unanimous. Thank you so much. Item 7 on the agenda is the Sperry Park Committee report. Sheila McCrevin has an update about a student project that came to the Sperry Park Committee that you are on. So
Yes, this very excitingly, the Sperry Park Committee actually met on January 3rd, 2023. And we had with us Sophia McDermott, who is a student at Amity High School. She had initially proposed a project that might involve changing the use at the park, specifically to explore whether people wanted to allow swimming. As the Sperry Park Committee, we met, we explained to her that it's not possible to change that kind of use because that is a public water supply watershed and we don't people swim in that. But so she has thought of some other ideas that she would like to focus her project on, mainly involving the testing the knowledge that the community might have about this park and the history of the park, etc. So we felt as a committee that it's within our power to continue to work with her to sort of approve the wording of what she's going to ask for public opinion on. It's not going to require any town funding. So there's no real, it doesn't seem as though there's anything that the Board of Selectmen will need to act on. It's something that Sperry Park can do because it's part of our charge in ordinance when we were created. So I just wanted to report on that so that folks knew what was happening and can look forward to a survey that will come out probably sometime by the end of January or beginning of February.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Sheila on that?
Yeah, so we'll get the results of that survey and you'll report it at the Board of Selectmen meeting?
Well, we can ask Sophia to do that. It's part of the Yukon Extension program that she participates
Yeah,
in.
I'm familiar with this through the
And-
Conservation
and then-
Commission.
Yeah, and so she has to put her presentation online. So we will certainly get it electronically. We can ask her to come and present as well, so we can ask her questions. Great.
Would you like that to happen, David?
What's that now?
Would you like her to come?
I would.
Yeah,
I
we
think
can
it
certainly
puts
invite
pressure
her.
on her, but I think it would be a valuable,
Okay.
valuable experience for her to present it before the board.
Okay, Sheila, if you would take that on to just ask her to come and we'll see if we can get her for the February meeting.
Well, she won't have the results by February.
Yeah,
will
probably
she?
March. Yeah,
No.
Okay,
great. Thank
sounds
you.
good. Anyone else? Thank you so much. Next item in the packet is the consent agenda. And I guess I need to ask for a motion to approve the okay, how does this, yep,
So
Sheila?
I'd like to make a motion first to remove from the consent agenda the last item, which is only the, let's see, the extension of the Greenway report. I had some questions about that, so I just wanted to remove it from consent agenda so we can dispose of everything else first. So my motion is everything listed except for line item F, under item 8.
Okay, so that's your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So we'll vote on that first. All in favor, removing, putting A through E in the consent agenda, approving. And then we will pull out F and discuss it further, I guess, as to what to do with that piece. All in favor? Okay, good. I got 6 hands. Thank you so much. Now we will discuss acknowledge receipt of the 2020 Greenway Plan with the Conservation Commission. I think you had some questions that you want to. Go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah, so I think I want to understand what it means for the Board of Selectmen to accept the plan. I know that there's a lot of
No,
work.
not
that's going on.
accept.
Jerry Shaw, is that you?
Oh, I didn't realize that, it's acknowledge receipt of it, not accept it. That
Right.
word's very important.
Yeah, so I wanted to better understand, and I thought perhaps we could invite the someone from Conservation Commission to talk with us about what it entails, because it seems quite ambitious. I know they've put a lot of effort into studying the Greenway, and there's a series of suggestions. But if we did it all, that's a lot of money for the town to expend. I don't think the plan itself commits us, but I would like to better understand the thinking of the commission in terms of what next steps they would want to take. I know they've explored a lot of different ways of applying for funds, using the existing open space funds that we have. I would just like the opportunity to talk with them more about it so that they could fully have our input, perhaps make alterations to the plan, or not, depending on how they take our input. But that was my thought, and so I wanted to get the thoughts of other Board of Selectmen members.
Well,
Do we have the authority to change their plan? Because they've adopted this they have,
I'd like to speak to that. I think this plan is a blueprint for what they would like to eventually see the Greenway to be. And then specific ways that they could get that. It's not all going to happen overnight. This is going to be many years in the making with lots of sources of funding. But this is the goal that they're putting forth. And I think it is an ambitious goal, but they want to link all the Greenway spaces, which I think is something that's worthwhile doing.
so I think I just need to clarify first, this item F is acknowledge receipt of the plan. So we are acknowledging receipt of the plan independent of, we can have them come back and talk to us about it, or do we have to have that discussion before we acknowledge receipt?
Yeah, I did notice that
I'm
there
not
was
clear
something
on
about
that.
filing with the state. And so I know that our initial Greenway in 2002 was filed with the state's an official document. And I'm not clear. I don't know if Jerry Weiner maybe can help us with whether the Board of Selectmen needs to approve it in order to file with the state, or can Conservation act on its own?
So the first question, Sheila, is what Beth raised, that the agenda item is only to acknowledge receipt of the plan. Obviously, I don't even know why we have to acknowledge it. It was received. No one disputes that it was received. So the plan is with the town. I don't think there's any Board of Selectmen action necessary to acknowledge it, but you can do that if you want. It's superfluous, but the second part of your question is, I think it's appropriate to ask the conservative. I'm not prepared to give an opinion right now as to whether it's binding on the Board of Selectmen. Certainly, anything that requires funding is not binding on the Board of Selectmen, because the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen weigh in on funding. So nothing can be carried out that requires funding. And that's not binding on the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance. But I think that it's appropriate to ask somebody from the Conservation Commission to come to one of our meetings, one of your meetings, to explain exactly what their intentions are. But the binding element of it is limited, especially if anything requires funding.
So I will note in the cover letter, it says that in March of 2002, the Board of Selectmen endorsed the concept of the original plan. So I wonder if we need to re-endorse or endorse again this new plan, because this is quite a departure from the one from 2002. And, you know, that's what I guess we can ask them if they come to our meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so does the board want to, given that, acknowledge receipt of the 2020 Greenway plan?
I guess you can ask for a unanimous consent again that that it's been received, but there's no question about that. So everybody could raise their hand and make
Jerry,
it.
could we also table this question until next month?
Well, you can't table a question.
Acknowledging receipt, we've already received it.
It's been received.
I have it in my hand right now.
Yeah, receiving is one thing. Acknowledging receipt, the vote to acknowledge receipt is something else. So
Can you not? How can you deny that it was received? You all have a copy of it. What do you got to acknowledge? You all have a copy. It's there. If you want, you can all raise your hand that we acknowledge that we received it, because it's in front of me and I'm looking at it. That's fine.
Okay, I will ask for I will ask for consent that we have received the document. Raise your hand.
We have received it. I
We
see.
have received it. Sheila has not received it. Okay. Okie dokie, and then we'll get conservation in here at some point in the next, when we get time, on a less than giant agenda to take.
Sheila, and Sheila and Beth, it is part of our strategic plan for the board to have essentially monthly reports as necessary from our commissions. And with the receipt of this report, it clearly seems like we should move ahead on your suggestion, Sheila. Get a report from them and see what we need to do once they've actually presented to the board and answered questions. And maybe in advance, we do some homework to see what we would have to do to move forward with accepting it.
Okie doke, that sounds good. So we will do that.
Before we leave this, I have a question for either Beth or Jerry. Does this have to be submitted to the TPZ as part of the town plan?
I think the statute gives the Conservation Commission the authority to come up with this plan, but I don't believe that TPZ has anything to do with it.
Okay. Thank you.
just so I understand, there's a difference between the open space plan and the expansion of the Greenway plan.
Yeah.
This is the expansion of the Greenway plan we're talking about now.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're all set with that. Item 8, correct? And okay.
May
Next
I
is-
just ask a question? Excuse me. Um, so is it the consensus of the board that they want to adopt, they want someone from CC to come and discuss the Greenway plan at a meeting? That wasn't clear to me.
Anyone want to speak to that? Sheila, you want them to come? I think that was your objection to acknowledging receipt.
Yeah, I just want to understand, because this is not the open space plan, right? So this is the expansion of the Greenway. The existing Greenway in 2002, which is registered with the state, was certainly acted upon in an affirmative way by the Board of Selectmen. And I assume there was a presentation. We actually aren't getting a presentation tonight. We just have a document. I have some questions about the document. I can't ask them because there's no one here to answer them. It would be very rhetorical and take up too much time. So yeah, I would like to have the Conservation Commission present it to us. Yeah, I think it would be great because it's their recommendation that it be adopted by the town. So, sure.
Okay. Jerry, you clear with that now?
Yep,
Okay, great.
thank you.
thanks. No worries. Okay. Item 9 on the agenda is the Personnel Committee report. I do not have the minutes for some reason. I had them and I don't know where they went, but the Personnel Committee met yesterday, David Lober, Paul Kiriakos, and me. And this was in regards to an open position vacated by Karen Crosby moving to Assistant Administrative Officer position. And Tony, maybe you've got the minutes and you could just give a sum of what happened as our Personnel Director. And then I can say that we did make a recommendation, so.
I can. So the
Thank
committee
you.
voted unanimously to recommend the Board of Selectmen that Gay Mastriana be offered the position of Payroll and Benefits Administrator beginning January 12th, 2023, at a salary of $72,000 per year. I will note that Gay Mastriana was the Payroll and Benefits employee for the Board of Education in Woodbridge Board of Education for, I think, 28 years. So she comes with a lot of experience in that area. And she has currently been our accounts payable clerk for the past 6 months. And she's a welcome addition to our staff. And I think she'll do an excellent job.
Now we'll open up another spot. We're slowly but surely
Right.
finishing up our reorganization
Up an accounts payable
of
position.
employees, yes. So it was a unanimous vote by the board. I'm sorry, by the Personnel Committee. So David Lober, would you like to make a motion?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, my friend.
You're gonna have to repeat her name.
Gay
Okay.
Mastriana.
I move that we hire her name
Gay
Dave
Mastriana,
Mastriana.
for the job of
Payroll and Benefits Administrator,
at the rate of,
$72,000 per year.
do I have a second?
Effective January
Tomorrow.
12th, right? Yeah, tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David Vogel seconds it. Any comments, questions further? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, everybody did it. Great. My light went out again. I got to fix that light. Okay. Thank you very much. And now we move on to the town council's report. Item 1 is the ordinances. Jerry, take it away.
Okay, so you recall at the last meeting, we talked about an ordinance that the tax collector requested in view of, I believe, a new state statute, but I'm not sure it involves a state statute. But essentially, the tax collector makes refunds of overpayments of taxes, and she requested that that she not be required to make refunds of anything less than
Pat's coming in.
You guys hear me?
Yep, we
Yes.
can. Pat just joined, Jerry, our
Okay.
tax collector. She's here.
Somehow my audio, my video timed out, but that's okay. I can continue.
We can see you and we can hear you.
Perfect. Pat, I asked Pat to come to explain why it was not practical for us to have anything under $25 due to a taxpayer be credited to the taxpayer's account, which is what we all discussed and which we all thought would be a very easy solution to this, and apparently it's not. So, Pat, why don't you tell the board and the public why you can't credit excess payments under $25 to a taxpayer's account?
Okay. The original idea of this program was what other towns do, and that was to raise the amount from $5 to $25. And at that point, it was because it cost the town quite a bit of money to refund money for small amounts. It has to come from my office, it goes to the board, and then it goes to finance, and checks have to be written and mailed out. And we felt this was a fair amount to do 25, which was pretty much what other towns are doing. The issue came up at your meeting was that we should then take that excess money and apply it back to people's accounts. It's not something that we are able to do. Some of the people who get the money in the refund have moved away. There have been changes that make it just impossible to do. And that was my main concern about it. Did you have a question about it, or?
So the issue, we were supposed to have a public hearing on that proposed ordinance tonight, but because of what Pat advised and because of the discussion at the Board of Selectmen meeting last month, we felt we could not have a public hearing because a lot of the underpinnings of what the board wanted to do and recommend to the public was not practical anymore. So tonight you have to decide whether you want to go ahead with this proposed ordinance now that you know the money cannot be credited to a taxpayer's account. And if you do, we will set a hearing date at the next meeting for this public hearing. And we also put the other issue that we were going to have a public hearing on with regard to terms of office of appointed officials, because we would do those together. So at the next meeting, you can either have a public hearing on both items, or if you want to just have a public hearing on the term of office items and not do the return of taxpayer $25 excess payment issue. So the board has to decide what they want to do with that issue.
David Vogel, are you talking? Because I can see you, but I can't. You got to unmute.
I just had a question for Jerry. What constitutes a public meeting? Is that just when we have a board meeting that is a public hearing?
Well, we specifically schedule on the agenda a public hearing item.
Yep.
At that point, the Board of Selectmen's meeting is adjourned to the public hearing, and residents are permitted to come and give their opinions as to the underlying reason for the public hearing.
That just to an earlier comment, it seemed very difficult to do in our current format of virtual meetings. But that's just only my opinion.
Well, you can do it virtually, or if the next meeting is in person, you do it in person, but there's no reason why you can't do it virtually. I mean, many towns I've watched town meetings, or I've read about town meetings that are virtual where they do have public hearings, P&Z meetings in New Haven, P&Z meetings in Handon, other places. So you can have a public hearing virtually, as long as you give the appropriate notice to the public.
Okay. Thank you.
So Jerry, to the text that's in our packet, would we, I guess what we're saying is we would need to consider altering it to stop after the $25 amount. So
Correct.
we would delete and further that said excess payment shall be credited to the taxpayer's account because it's not practical to do that.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So I guess, do we need a motion to say that this is the wording that we want to put out to the public and hold the public hearing on?
Yes,
Okay, so I'll make that motion that we consider that change. So we would retain all the way up to the $25 amount. So you would make no refunds that were not at least $25.01 and above. Is that right?
I'll
correct.
second that.
So we have to, but do we have to call call a public hearing to do so as part of this motion?
Yeah, we just have to set a public hearing. That's,
Right, we usually do it at the next Board of Selectmen meeting. God willing, we'll be in person, February 8th.
Yeah, you can do it at the next Board of Selectmen meeting. All Jerry Shaw needs is enough time to get the appropriate notices published, and I think she will have enough time to do it if you schedule it for February 8th.
Okay,
So you can vote on Sheila's motion right now, and then we have a new motion that will be presented at the public hearing.
Right. And we would change January 11th to February 8th.
Correct.
okay. So we have a motion and a second for that? We do have a second, right? Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. Okay, thank you.
And you should, Beth, reauthorize a public hearing for the issue of number 75-5, Town Code, term of office. And you can also reschedule the public hearing or schedule a public hearing for February 8th as well on that issue.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we do that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. All right, thank you so much.
Excuse
Item
me,
B.
Beth?
Yep.
Beth,
Yes.
we have to go back and do something with the rest of the content of the consensus agenda?
No,
We voted on A through E to.
All right, I didn't catch that. Okay.
I don't think, actually, Beth, I think Jerry's right. I don't think you actually voted. You sort of skipped off. So written
I
when.
thought we did.
Right
I
there.
thought we did minus, but we'll do it again. I'll make a motion that we approve the
did
consent
vote. I saw
agenda in
that.
case
I
we
voted.
forgot for items A through E.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Apologies.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, next is a report from Town Council, report on the cell tower litigation update. Jerry?
Very quickly, as you all know, the cell tower issue has been involved for the last year and a half. Cell tower was proposed by Verizon on Newton Road. The neighborhood organized and formed an association to oppose the application that was pending before the siting council. The neighborhood association appeared before the siting council. The town of Woodbridge was authorized by the Board of Selectmen to hire an attorney experienced in these matters to represent the town and support the neighborhood's opposition to Verizon, which we did. Beth participated in the public hearing before the siting council. The siting council came down with a decision supporting Verizon's application. The neighbors all took an appeal of that decision to the Superior Court, which is where you go to appeal siting council decisions. The Superior Court judge recently, within the last 2 months, issued a decision supporting the siting council approval of Verizon's application. So as of this moment, Verizon is permitted to go ahead with its plans to construct the tower off of Newton Road. We did not know whether the neighbors were going to appeal. We just found out about 2 weeks ago that the neighborhood association has decided not to appeal. However, one of the neighbors who has a home directly adjacent to the site has appealed. So there is one appeal still pending, and it's by this neighbor solely without the support and without the intervention of the neighborhood association. That appeal is pending in the appellate court. Probably take at least a year, if not longer, for that to be decided. So, and the Board of Selectmen indicated that it was not, that the town would not be hiring counsel to enter any appearances in the appeal. So that's where that stands. It's just a waiting game to see what happens in the appellate court. What do I have down? Okay, as you all know, the next item that I have on the town council's report is item C. Vote to authorize the first selectman to sign documents concerning the $2 million grant that was given to us by the state of Connecticut for the community and cultural center which essentially is the renovations of the old firehouse. We have the documents. I've been talking to the lawyer for the state of Connecticut about the documents. I have one or two more discussions with him, but we'd like to sign those documents and get it off to the state so we're in a position to move forward with that project. And I would need a vote from the Board of Selectmen authorizing the first selectman to in fact sign the they call it an assistance agreement, which means that the town will be getting $2 million for this project. So we need a motion from somebody.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Jerry on this? Comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so now that's the end of my report. So if there's nothing more, we have an executive session scheduled to talk to the attorneys for the town with regard to the Open Communities lawsuit. I think that Jerry Shore should have sent you a separate link. We were concerned a little bit about confidentiality in these executive sessions, so we now have a second link, and hopefully we all can do it. I've participated in other groups that have meetings and do the same thing for executive session because of a overriding concern for confidentiality and privacy. So Jerry, why don't you tell everybody what we need to do now, and we can come back. Mrs. Shaw?
Yep, my understanding is that they simply leave the meeting. They'll have something will pop up and tell you that they will leave the meeting. If you look at there should be a red X at the bottom, and it should say end or leave event. And if you click that, it'll say leave meeting, and you click leave meeting if this all works. And then I will not end the meeting. The meeting just sort of goes off and stays on a shelf somewhere. And then you will click on the link to the meeting that I sent this afternoon. You should all have that. And that will open the executive session, and everybody else will be excluded from the executive session. No one else will be in there. And that is also a registered, so you have to have, I sent you also.
Don't sign off yet. Don't sign off yet, because we have to do a motion to go into executive session.
That's right.
Sign off.
Yeah.
Okay. We ready for that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, we all hope we come back. I will make a motion that we go into executive session for discussion of pending litigation pursuant to section 1-206B regarding Open Communities Trust LLC et al. Versus Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission et al. And we have a report from attorneys. We will invite in Tony Genovese, our our administrative officer and our finance director, and Jerry Weiner, town counsel, and Peter Nolan from Carmody and Torrance, another attorney, and Tom Gerard from, I don't know the name of firm, Jerry, I'm sorry.
Howden Ludorf.
Thank you, Howden Ludorf. So with that, is there a second to my motion?
Second.
And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I hopefully shortly next meeting.
And we'll have to come back again to continue the regular meeting after our executive session. So we all